Hey guys, what is up? Big Reviews here, back again with another video, and today we're going to be talking about Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, and scored by Ludwig Göransson. And if you haven't seen this movie, guys, I'm going to tell you, go see this movie. Do not watch this review, do not watch any review, do not watch anything on it, go watch this movie. I only saw the first trailer of this movie, and I didn't want to watch much, because I knew this movie was going to be very layered, I knew this movie was going to be very emotional, but also just very good, and I didn't want to watch a lot of stuff leading up to it. Ryan Coogler is proving himself time and time again to be one of the best directors in Hollywood. He's made both Black Panthers, he made Creed 1, and now this movie, and you could tell this movie he really deeply cared about. This might go down as his Inglourious Basterds, like his magnum opus. Even, he could make stuff better than this, but I feel like he just put his soul into this movie, and I feel like this, like, he worked really hard, and all his filmography leading up to this was made for this movie. I do want to talk about some non-spoiler stuff, but we will be talking about spoiler stuff in the future. I'll let you know when we get into that. Everything's firing on all cylinders here. Cinematography, lighting, the sound especially. There's a lot of times where they use sound when they're talking about flashbacks, and I'll get into that in the spoiler section, and it just really helps, like, the viewer. Editor Joey here. I forgot to talk about it in the spoiler section, so I just want to briefly mention what I'm talking about. Basically, anytime a character is talking about a flashback or part of their life, instead of us getting, like, the actual visual flashback scene, we hear the voices and stuff from that scene, or, like, noises, and it really helps to put us in that scene without having to do a whole flashback and see this person still tell the story. It was really well done. The acting, Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld. I pulled us up here because I didn't know a lot of their names, but Omar Benson Miller, Jamie Lawson, Delroy Lindo, Miles Keaton, or Keaton, I don't know how to say his last name. This is his first acting gig ever, and it's in Sinners, and he is the main character. Yes, Michael B. Jordan plays Smoke and Stack, and he's, like, obviously the main, person, but Preacher Boy is the main character of this movie, and we'll get into that in the spoiler section as well. And he is phenomenal in this movie. This cast, Jack O'Connell as the main villain, and the way this villain is layered, and you really, like, they could have gone a certain way with this character that has been done a lot, but they don't. I really love the music. I mean, the score is, and the music in this movie is a character in itself. This whole movie centers around blues and how music is kind of a double-edged sword in a sense, and it really ties with Preacher Boy and the whole, what happens in that night that this movie takes place. There is a scene in this movie that I'm not going to spoil what it is, but until we get to the spoilers. But I remember going in this movie, everyone's like, there's some scenes in this movie that are really good, and I was really expecting that. There is a 3-minute scene in this film, and and it's one of those scenes where the minute it starts, this will be talked about. This is peak cinema. Every good movie has this moment that's talked about, right? Oppenheimer, it could be when he's having PTSD on the board with everyone. Interstellar, it's the docking scene, right? Even Endgame has the on your left scene that everyone talks about. There's one big scene in a movie that defines the whole movie, and this scene in the building, I could not speak, and I found myself really emotionally attached to this film. And obviously this film wasn't really made for me. Obviously I'm not going to be able to relate to this film as much as others, especially the African American community, but I found myself crying at the end just because I couldn't even explain it. When we get into the spoiler sections, I can kind of get into why I think I cried, but I just got really emotional. I was really attached to these characters, and the fact that, like, this music, like the message with the music is just so real and all this, I don't know, I just got really emotional. I literally didn't even know I was crying. Michael B. Jordan as Stack and Smoke, half the time I forgot it was Michael B. Obviously I knew it was Michael B. Jordan, but I was like, I forgot it's the same guy playing these characters. He plays them so differently. And oh, man, they're just so good. They're so good. The woman, I can't even pronounce her name. I don't want to butcher it. She's in Loki, and she was in Deadpool and Wolverine. She plays Annie. She is incredible in this movie. She's one of the only people in this movie that I think is pure, because this movie deals with the devil and it deals with sinning. Obviously, it's called Sinners. And let's go ahead and start getting into some spoiler talks here. By the way, the movie's 10 out of 10. Go watch it. That's my rating. 10 out of 10. Go watch it. It was incredible. But this movie, guys, is just phenomenal. I quickly want to, since we're in spoiler territory now, I want to talk about the scene that I mentioned earlier. It is the scene where they're talking about where Preacher Boy's playing his song, and he's in the background. You hear a message they say at the beginning of the film where they talk about how music, transcends time, and it can bridge the gap between generations. And so as he's playing, you see a man come with a really old either ukulele or guitar, and then that's when she says "and pass," and then she says, and in the future, and you see like a 90s guy with an electric guitar, and I got goosebumps when this happened. I immediately knew what they were doing. And as the camera moves around the whole building, you see DJ, you see 90s hip-hop. Even when they get to the Asian guy, you see someone from his culture right behind him, like as if like this is the culture he's attached to. And as the camera moves, you see girls twerking in the kitchen, like you see all these generations, and as they talk about how music is just connecting all of our generations together. Even if like this movie's set in the 30s, and then like, you know, we have 90s music, then we have old-timey music from like the 1700s, 1800s, and it was just a phenomenal scene. I can't even give it justice with the way I'm talking about it. Just when you see it, you'll know. I really like the villain of this movie, Remick. I really love that you can kind of get the gist that he's not like, they could have easily made it obviously, you know, the white guy in this movie being like the racist, and like the white, you know, but like that's so like cliche nowadays. Like I really like how like nuanced he was and like how layered he was. The first scene we see of him, first off, we don't even get to see him for the first hour. And I really thought that was bold, and I really liked it. Because we spend so much time with Smoke and Stack, seeing like who they are, how they operate. The first scene we see of Remick is him jumping over the camera, and as we find out later, he's actually flying as if like an angel fallen from heaven, and he lands because he's burning up in the sun. And someone pointed out on TikTok that he calls the Native American people Chataus, or I don't know how to say their like what they are, like what their tribe is called or whatever it is, but people noticed that he called them like by the right name. And obviously the guy's house they pulled up to, he's in the KKK, he doesn't care, and he's really racist towards Native Americans. And then you can see Remick almost kind of switch to, okay, this guy is like kind of racist like that, I have to play into that so I can be saved. And I didn't realize that at first. And what I really like about Remick as well is like towards the end of the movie, and I wish they fleshed this out a little more, that you learn that he was also affected by white people and their generation and all that. Editor Joey back again. I just want to explain this more because I didn't really explain it well in the video. We basically find out through a newspaper that Remick has been alive for about 1,200 years, and he was Irish. And so we basically come to find out through that information and his prayer with Sammy at the end, that when he was in, like, you know, Ireland or wherever, like the white colonizers came and pushed, you know, Christianity onto him and his family as well. So that's why he understands this, and that's why he kind of like, you know, agrees with Stack and them, and that's why he looks so offended when Smoke says, like, ask him if he's with the KKK or whatever, because he's not that at all. Because he talks about, you know, obviously he's Irish, they play Irish music. There's a great scene outside of the building where him and all the vampires are doing like this Irish song. It was really creepy but really well done. I love, like, and going back to the other thing about how, and I'm probably getting a lot of these messages wrong, but that's a great thing about film, is you can interpret it how you want. The main thing I really love, like I said earlier, is that music is a main character in this film. And I love how they talk about how music can also be a double-edged sword, because obviously one hand we see how music can connect all these generations and stuff, but obviously, as you knew back then, especially churches, they were talking about how you know, that music can be the devil as well. And we kind of almost see both sides of that. As Preacher Boy is playing his music, that's what draws the vampires in, because we find out that Remick wants to, and we don't really know why he wants to use it. He says it a couple times. We don't know the true reason. What I like to believe is I think Remick wanted to use this power to see his old generation. I genuinely don't think he wanted to like rule the world with this music and make everyone into devils. I truly think he did want to see his old generations, because he does believe in the message, right? And I do think a lot of the stuff he is saying is true. When he explains this to the brothers and everyone at the door when they're trying to get in, the brothers believe him. Like, everyone believes him there, and I believe him too. I don't think he was lying with that. But I love how they show how music could be a double-edged sword sometimes, and how like a lot of people, definitely white people in the South back then, thought of like blues as like devil's music and all that, because as he's playing and they're having a great night, that's what attracts the vampires. And so he inadvertently brings the devil there and all that, because the devil wants his music. I really like how Coogler uses like really old school stuff with the vampires, like really old rules, obviously, like stake through the heart, garlic, and I really like how they really, like, a lot of this film just revolves around letting people in your house. As you know, there's an old vampire rule where they cannot enter your house unless you let them. So, and it's really subtle in the beginning. When we first see Remick at the door of the KKK member, he's burning up, but he cannot enter. He's asking, and they finally let him in, and that's how he kills them. And throughout the whole movie that night, as more and more people get picked off, and I'm so glad that like they didn't play this, oh my god, we don't know what's going on. Like they right away, because of Annie, because Annie was the most spiritual person in this whole movie. She immediately is like, when Cornbread ends up going to piss and he turns into a vampire, and he comes back and he's like, hey, you know, let me in. And they're all, and like, I'm so glad they didn't play dumb. Like, the movie didn't play dumb. All the characters all of a sudden like, why are you asking to come in? The door's right there. And Annie says something like, you're bigger than Smoke. You could just push past him and enter. You know, and so they immediately realize what's going on. And a lot of people were shitting on the Asian wife because if you guys, so the Asian wife like basically says y'all can come in. And I know it was selfish a bit, and it kind of like basically ruined the whole thing because they were waiting out till daytime. But at the end of the day, I really just saw a mother because, like, you know, then if you don't know, so the one thing Coogler adds is that there's a hive mind with the vampires. Anytime the main guy gets hurt or anything, and they can all read minds and stuff, they feel it. So, like, Remick was talking about how, like, he knows about their daughter and he's going to go to the city and kill the daughter if she doesn't come out. And so, obviously, if I were her, I'd be like, fuck it, let's start killing them. I really loved the ending, and I didn't get it at first. I had to stew on it, and I was reading, like, other people's interpretations of it, where basically Remick is about to kill Preacher Boy in the water, and Preacher Boy starts reciting, you know, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Remick starts doing that too, and then I'm gonna take it right out here. And they talk about how Sammy recites the Bible verse to Remick, and all the other vampires recite the same verse. It was going over everyone's head. The Bible did not save him, and that was the point. And this is not, and it's so hard to say that, and people are like, this movie's shitting on religion. It's not. It's just talking about how, like it says here, the vampire wanted Annie because of her power, the same power that preserves Smoke. Hence, using the religion that the colonizers fed you will not save you. It keeps you in bondage. Because Remick talks about how that same religion that was pressed onto Preacher Boy's folk from these white colonizers was also brought onto his, you know, because his family was Irish, was also put onto his family and his generation as well. And that's why he recites the prayer back to Preacher Boy. And that's where we learn that Remick is also kind of a villain in this whole thing. In this whole thing as well. This is where we learn that Remick is also kind of like a victim in a sense of the same white oppression in these colonizers that came over. And that's what I was talking about, where instead of just making it where Remick is, oh, he's the evil guy because he's like the only white guy besides the guy in the beginning of the film. Yeah, this was great. And obviously the fight scene with all the vampires was really cool. And I really loved just the ending and how these characters wrap up. I loved the scene where Smoke goes out and takes all the KKK members out. And I love, like, a lot of my friends didn't even catch this when, I think this is when I started tearing up, when he sees Annie with their deceased son. Because if you know, earlier in the film, he brings flowers, and you find out that him and Annie apparently had a son that died, I guess, in childbirth or really young. He sees Annie in this ethereal white breastfeeding her son, and he's rolling I don't know why he's rolling a cigarette, or like, and he's rolling, I think it was weed or cigarette, I don't know what it was, I think it was like tobacco, and she says, you know, and he wants to hold him, and she's like, okay, but I don't want any of that smoke on my son, and she says Elijah, which is his name, not Smoke, she says Elijah. And I really love this moment because obviously I don't want any of the smoke from the cigarette on my son, but she's also saying, I don't want smoke. I want Elijah with me and my son. I don't want smoke and all that violence and all that. And then he says okay, and he throws the cigarette out, and also implying that he's throwing, you know, Smoke out, and he holds Elijah, and he dies, and it's weird because, like, he dies, but both siblings get their happy ending, right? He gets to live on with Annie and his dead son, and then we see Mary and Stack, and we see that they actually end up living a happy life together. We do see this because we never see in the moment what happens when Smoke is about to kill Stack, and we find out actually in an end credit scene, so do not leave. There's like a 3-minute end credit scene that, you know, Smoke could not kill Stack, and Smoke basically said, listen, I will not kill you if you leave Preacher Boy alone. And he keeps his promise. And also what I never realized until now either is when the KKK people come at the end and Smoke is about to light them up, they try to open the door and it's locked. And I think that's because Stack is in there. Because it's daytime, he can't go outside. We know Mary escaped. We see a shot of Mary running. And I'm going to watch the movie again, so I'll double check. But I don't think Stack was with her. So I think Stack was in there, and he was also trying to make sure Stack survived. And so the end credit scene is really where I started bawling. I don't know, it just hit me so hard. We see Preacher Boy. He could have gone to God, but he kept his guitar. And a lot of people, again, are misinterpreting this as him like siding with the devil or signing his soul. People want Preacher Boy to be the villain so badly, and it's so sad that people are reading this the wrong way. Him saying no to his father and keeping the guitar is not him siding with the devil, because he's seen that music is a double sword, right? He's just going to live his life because, we see him do this. He's successful. He calls this place Pearline after the girl that he had sex with that night that he was really into that sadly died to the vampires. And we see the scar, and we see Stack and Mary walk in. And at first I was like, please do not kill this man, right? And then we find out, and it's so cool because they obviously haven't aged, but we see them in like 90s attire. And we basically see Stack talk about, you know, I don't like a lot of the music, even the older music nowadays, because the way they recorded it, it doesn't sound good. He's like, I want to hear some of the real old stuff. And so Sammy pulls out his guitar and he starts playing, and then Stack also says, you know, I can, I don't know why I'm so like emotionally I don't know, I was really attached, guys. I mean, you know, won't be long before you're gone. I can make you immortal. And Preacher Boy says, no, I think I've seen enough of this place. And it was, I don't know why that hit me so hard, because it's just, you know, like, you know, you've lived, I mean, Preacher Boy's what, 80 in his 90s now? Like, you've seen so much, and you just don't want to live forever, you know, that's it. And so he plays the music of his old days, and we get a montage of, you know, him playing it in the car with Stack, and and how, like, just music, and they talk about how they hug goodbye, and then, you know, Sammy says, you know something, maybe once a week I wake up paralyzed reliving that night, but before the sun went down, I think that was the best day of my life. And we see a shot of all of them in the building playing, and just having that community together, that place where everyone can come together in their community and brought by music. And Stack says, no doubt about it, the last time I've seen my brother, last time I've seen the sun, for a few hours we was free, and that's it, and they walk away. And that is where I stop. I'm trying not to cry. I don't know why. Like, it was so hard-hitting, because Stack, he's been alive for 60 years now as a vampire, and he still thinks about the best night of his life, which was 60 years ago. The last time he bathed in the sun. The last time he saw his brother. And, oh, it was really good, guys. I don't know. That's... oh. Guys, this movie is incredible. I mean, you really care for the characters. You care for everything that goes into this movie. This movie was made by passion, by a man that really wanted to tell what he wanted to tell, and he set out and did it. 10 out of 10. Please go watch it, guys. As always, it's been Joey. See you later. Bye-bye.